can't hear you.
The pretty tough.
Can you hear me now?
Dreams do come true.
Pretty tough, but there's room for the ugly and weak. Don't judge and stop on court in these streets. The devil's a lie, don't listen to doubt and deceit. Wouldn't believe how many blessings I counted this week. But not too long ago we had it pretty tough, but now we shining like a diamond in the rough. Stay in your own lane, don't switch it up. And never say his name in vain, just lift it up.
Heavenly Father, sorry for the bother, but the journey in this life is getting harder. You see, never been perfect. I may even deserve it, cause the choices that I made, they wasn't worth it. I read somewhere that if I cast all my cares at your feet and declare the victory, that you, the potter, can take all of my sorrows and I'll trample every serpent at my feet. Pretty tough. The pretty tough road. Reach for the stars, the sun, and the moon. The pretty tough road. Dreams do come true.
The sun and the moon, you can get to the stars if you reach. Dreams come true, whether you woke or asleep. The devil's a lie, don't listen to doubt and deceit. Greater life past the name, and I swear you could preach. But not too long ago we had it pretty tough, but now we shining like a diamond in the rough. Stay in your own lane, don't switch it up. And never say his name in vain, just lift it up.
The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord, yes, my God, He appointed me to bring the good news to the poor. He sent me to heal, He sent me to restore the brokenhearted, proclaiming liberty to the captives. He died to set us free from the chains and the weight and the doom. Journeys through life, conversations, the pretty tough room.
Welcome to the Pretty Tough Room podcast. I'm your host, Shitaye P. And today we have part 2 with Shitaye Morrison. We have her back, guys. She's coming to continue sharing her journey through brokenness. 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, we had Shitaye on here. If you guys missed the first half of it, you want to go back and watch that so that you can get what she gave us the first time around. And then now she's going to pick up where she left off. I know that Shitaye, a little bit we did discuss last time was that you gave us some background, some foundation of your growing up. I remember you mentioned your father, you mentioned your uncle, and you talked a little bit about your ex-husband and kind of what that relationship looked like. You left off at a really pivotal place, and that's why I wanted to stop you there, because we were running out of time, and I really know that a lot of people was interested in hearing the rest of your journey, because there are people who are in the position that you had been in and they don't know where to start, or they feel like they're the only person dealing with. So I think it was key to bring you back, and I didn't want to take too long. And we usually don't do, I've never done this before, like a part 2 pop-up type of thing. So we figured it out, girl. Yeah, we figured it out. So I'm glad that you're back. We talked a little bit off the screen about, you just jumping in and kind of starting over. I mean, starting from this point, I think you deemed it the becoming. So this is your becoming right here. So I'm going to stop talking for a second, but first I want to give honor to God, and just pray us in real quick before we get started. And then you can have your way. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and bow in a moment of prayer. All hearts and minds cleared, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you on tonight. We thank you for your mercy, for your love, and for your grace. We thank you for more chances, not just the second chance, God, but we thank you for chance after chance after chance. You didn't have to, but you did. You woke us up this morning. You gave us breath in our bodies. We have use of our limbs and our minds, Father God, and we thank you. Father, I pray for the guest of this hour and a half that you would bless her and touch her heart, remove anything from her that is not of you. Let her story and her testimony touch somebody, Lord God, to bring them closer to you, to bring them closer to their breakthrough. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, Shitaye, you can take it away.
All right. So I think the last part I stopped on was whenever right before I moved to North Carolina, because I ended up moving to for 5 years. So that's why I named that part. That's why I was like, this is the part where I started, where this was the part where I started to become.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Whenever we got to North Carolina, things actually got worse. They got better for a little while, and then they got worse. But so I know that sounds like contradictory because it's like, well, how was that to becoming? But this, when I moved to North Carolina, that's when everything started to make sense. Everything
Mm-hmm.
started to make sense. Everything I accepted started to make sense. Everything I did started to make sense. So that's why I call it the becoming. But before I even go into that, I wanted to just backtrack just a little bit because when I went back and watched the last live we did, I was proud of myself. I think I did a great job
You
explaining,
did.
especially with that little bit of time and with everything I went through. But I noticed that I didn't really touch on um, the emotional, the emotional aspect of me having to suffer seeing the my first, well, whatever, he's not my first love, but my love, my everything. This, he was my everything.
Yeah.
Make a baby with somebody else. Like I
Yeah.
think I just breezed past that, and I think it's important to really touch on how hard that was for me, and then just like give a tad bit of details like of the little things that like triggered stuff in me.
Okay.
I know that there's women out there going through the same thing, and I want them to know that it's okay to feel every single emotion that you feel when you have to go through something like that. I think whenever you have to deal with a baby being born on you or a baby being had on you, it's almost like you're not important. You get what I'm saying? Because what's important is that baby.
Yeah.
So um, that's why I said it's important. It's important for me to stress that it's okay to feel. Because a lot of times when you're going through that, your feelings get put on the back burner. And I know that mine was like the situation was a little bit different for me, and it's probably different for a lot of other people. But I had to wait for the baby to be born to see if the baby was really his, thinking that the baby wasn't really going to be his because that's what he made me. You know what I mean? That's what.
Mm-hmm.
And then had to be hit with, okay, yeah, the baby is his, and we were living together at the time, so I I don't know if I put him out. I think I did. I think I ended up putting him out because it was just like his family wanted to celebrate the baby being born, and I was grieving what was happening in my relationship.
That's
So
fair.
I removed him from my home so that I can do that in peace. And then that's when I moved away because I felt like it was chasing me.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
it was like
That's good.
as much as I was trying to run from seeing the baby, I went months. I don't even think I ever saw him until he was like maybe 11 months. Because I went months without even wanting to see a picture, without wanting to see him, without wanting to talk about him. I just wanted to act like he didn't exist so that I can process my emotions without like going crazy. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
know what I mean? And then social media didn't make it any better. Social media didn't make it any better. And that's why just recently I did a live. I was live on my page and I mentioned on the live that I think that I struggle with publicizing my emotions so much because I know it's okay to do it, but then sometimes some things you just have to keep private. And I struggle with that because I I think it's because a lot of the stuff that I went through was put on for everybody to see.
Mm-hmm.
And it was out of my control. Where that was something that I would have rather did in private, I would have rather handled, and it was being broadcasted to everybody. So now everybody's looking at me like I'm feeling embarrassed.
Now, can I ask a question? Let me just stop you. I think that because I experienced that too with a child being born while I was in a relationship with somebody. Do you think that that is like because the person that you had the relationship with was kind of known, you know, they're popular in the neighborhood, the community, their family is so maybe somebody else had a baby on somebody and it wasn't as publicized, but because you guys were who you were known in the community that it was, did you think that that played a role too in addition to social media?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was like, and even if it really didn't play a role, I felt like it. Like I felt like everywhere I went, everybody was looking like that's the girl who he had a baby. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what I wore. That's what I
Yes. Yes. Okay.
wear. I wore it. But I thought it was. I think he was like 11 months when I first saw him. And I waited that long. I waited until I was ready. And honestly, I really wasn't even really ready. So I asked to see him. Like, I think he had a picture, and he was like, here he is. And I looked at him, and he looked exactly like my daughter. Like literally, he looked exactly like my child. And my heart just like broke into pieces
Mm-hmm.
even more. And girl, you wouldn't. Right behind his picture was a picture of the baby mom.
Oh Lord.
So that didn't make it no better because now we got to address this. Now I'm trying to get over this, and now we got to address this. But anyway,
Jesus.
yeah. So that's how That was the first. I waited. I didn't want to see him in person the first time I saw him. I wanted to see him. I saw him on a picture, and because he looked so much like my daughter, I think that's what made it worse because now my heart's involved.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the so behind all the pain, my good heart is still there, and it's like now I'm struggling with both of those emotions.
Oh,
So
that's good. Yeah.
then I knew a little bit of what he had going on at home, and it was like, Dad, I kind of feel like he needed me. This is real, and he was only 11 months, and I didn't know him. I felt like looking at the like because I knew certain things that was happening through just hearsay. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I ran. I continued to run, and I think he didn't visit us our house for the first time until he was like maybe 2. And when he came to stay with us, now I didn't really want to say his name, but that's his name. Sorry, but my ex husband had
Mm.
came to he had came back to move in with me. I bought rented another house, and he came and moved with me, and the baby was like left with him with some clothes, like it's your turn. As soon as he moved back in with me. So that was the first time, and I was still really bitter, really bitter. I was trying to build a relationship with him for the sake of the fact that he was a child, but I was still like, I'm watching my ex-husband interact with him, and it's just like,
Killing you. That's real feelings. That's come on and talk about it.
I saw my daughter like building a relationship with him. It was like making me sick to my stomach. Like, but I had to just stomach it, and I just had to continue. And I would never do anything. And the thing is, like I said, because I still have a good heart behind it, I feel like my heart was so big that even though I was bitter, the baby could still feel that energy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It didn't make him like he never disliked me. He always liked me, even
Yeah.
when I'm being real. Even when I disliked him, that baby always liked me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was the first time he stayed with us for a few months, and then he ended up going back to his mom. But it was like a lot of years, a few more years of that going on back and forth. A couple more, like, as he grew to be 5 and 6, it would be like back and forth. Sometimes he would be living with me and have him, and sometimes he would live with his mom. And when I say him, I mean my ex-husband. Like
Okay.
him on and off, they would go back and forth with custody or whatever. I tried to not be involved with the whole situation as much as I could because again, I was still very bitter, and
Mm-hmm.
what was happening was stuff that he needed me to help him dig his way out because that was the situation you asked for. So I was resentful, and I didn't want to help him for a long time. I'm like, that's you. That you chose to make that baby. That's up to you. Um, it wasn't until so right where when I left off, and I'm okay. So I'm done the with with replaying that part.
Okay. Okay. You just wanted to get that out. I understand.
That I just wanted to be raw about my emotions and the stuff that I felt and the stuff that I went through. I'm not telling anybody to do. Don't follow. Do as I say and not as I do. Don't follow my footsteps. I do not suggest um, a child in under any circumstances if you are still bitter or resentful towards the child. Because
That's good.
if you feel ill feelings, leave the man. And that's the only suggestion I got. If you feel any ill feelings towards a man's child, then you don't need to be with him.
That's
If not forever, just for that moment. Process those emotions, get through that, and then get back with him.
that's
Because
good.
it never truly work all the way. It'll never truly. It doesn't because that baby's going to follow you, and if you're still bitter, it'll never go away, and y'all will never get through anything.
Right. Right.
So fast forward back so that I can pick up where I left off last time. once the baby was born, again, we went through years of going back and forth with baby staying with us sometimes and him not staying. We still went through things. There was like still text messages back and forth through the both of us. It wasn't just him. He would do something and I would do it back. We went through years of that, and one year, I don't even remember the year, he ended up giving me a ring, and this was after the child was born. I think the child was like maybe 2 or 3. The baby was like 2 or 3, and he gave me a ring. It was an engagement ring, but he didn't propose. He thought he did, but he didn't. He gave it to me in an old navy bag. Opened up the bag, and is, are we engaged? And then we argued. It was so weird. Argue. It was funny. Um, so now we are like planning a wedding, right?
Mhm.
Planning a wedding, but failing horribly as boyfriend and girlfriend. Or,
The relationship.
I mean, horribly. So the cheating would slow down. The cheating did slow down,
Okay.
because that was his way of redeeming himself. But the habits didn't. So, I mean, and the cheating could have been going on in between the habits. I mean, like the occasional not coming in the house, that still continued with the ring. Um, Staying out on hours of the night, that still continued every now and then. And because it was a time of happiness, a period of happiness in between the occasional screw ups, I would just hold on to every little moment of that I would look past everything he was doing.
Yep.
And it was just making stuff. It was making where I thought it was getting better during the happy times. It was just all that was doing was playing on my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Here to here, here to here, here. I'm happy, I'm sad. I'm happy, I'm sad. And it was starting to happen so frequently. Like it went from months apart to like now we at like every 2 weeks or every other day, and it's just, now it's just constant. You were like I'm just unhappy, and that's when I started to understand that. Well, not understand. That's when I started to experience the emotional abuse. I honestly was. I've been experiencing it, but I don't think that it was like something that I understood. I don't know. I can't explain it. Like this is when I was like, okay, this is not healthy. Period. That's what it is. That's when I realized it wasn't healthy. I
Okay.
identified as emotional abuse, but that's when I realized it wasn't healthy. And I'm like, my son was born, and that was my way of like, oh, and not I didn't do that on purpose. My son was a mistake, but I was so happy that to have to give him a son. You know what I'm saying? After
Yes.
my first son with somebody else, because honestly, I did. He was my first everything. So I had never really got to experience the first anything with him. He already had a child when I met him. You know what I mean? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
I got and that was I'm like, I wanted to have his first son. And when that didn't happen, it was like, at this point, I don't have anything left. So at least let me give him a son. And we ended up naming him, we ended up making him a junior. And that kind of like eased the pain a little bit. But the, the wound was still there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was,
Yes.
and it was getting worse and worse. And, we ended up after my son was born, and he ended up doing another 90 days for a DUI suspension. He came home, and he came right back home doing the same thing, like
Mm.
stuff that he was doing before he went in, saying all hours of the night. And it was something about, he was working at TGI Fridays at the time, and it was something about that job. Like that job, just the days he would go to work, I might see him, I might not. Like that's just what it was. And I didn't understand. I didn't know that it was because that's where he was getting, where his habit was being fed at. So at this point, I'm like, I'm just broken down. I'm like, I'm trying to do everything I can to hold on to this man.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like he is just slipping away, slipping away, and slipping away. But in reality, it was really God pulling me away.
Come on here. Mm-hmm. Come on here.
So whenever he came back from the program, he did the 90 days and stuff was getting worse. Just I remember one day just telling him like, you can't come back here, because it was just getting, the disrespect was just every day. Like and then I was starting to suspect that he was messing with somebody at the job, but the person that I suspect wasn't even the person that he was messing with. He ended up the day I told him not to come back, he didn't come back. And that was unusual because if I ever done it in the past, he would probably stay gone one night, but he's back at my window. Everybody know that's how he is. The next 2 days, like he never really gives. I think that's why I got the 24-hour rule for everybody now. If I cut you off and you don't come back and give me in 24 hours,
You're done.
don't need 24 hours a day and then come back. But um, he didn't come back, and 24 hours turned into 72, and 72 turned into a week, and I was just left in the dust. Like I didn't know where he was. I didn't know what he was doing. I will occasionally talk to him every now and then. Um, and I could tell he was like sneaking on the phone. So at this point, I'm like starting to feel like I'm his side chick. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and I'm like, you're going in the bathroom to talk to me every morning, but you're not staying with nobody. And he's like, I'm not in the bathroom. You crazy? And I can hear the toilet flushing. Like, and this is listen. I mean, it's funny, but it's not because
It's,
I hate that word crazy. I hate that word crazy because every time I got called crazy in the past, what I thought was really happening was really happening.
yeah, and you wasn't crazy.
You know what I mean? Like you sneaking on the phone with me, and he was just like, I'm not living with nobody, and da 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 da. My little brother from my dad's other family. I have
Mhm.
little brothers. My little brother was living with us at the time. He's from Detroit. He was working at TGI Fridays with my ex husband, and he quit. But he was like back and forth from between Detroit and Pittsburgh, and he left for like 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks. Within that 3 weeks, really felt like years for me, to be honest with you. A lot changed. Like my husband had left, well, my ex-husband had left. He was wherever he was. So by the time he came back from visiting in Detroit, he came in and I explained everything to him. I'm like, he's been gone. I don't know who he's staying with. I've been raising this baby by myself, like sick. I mean, like, and working full time. I got two kids working a full time job, and it's
Mhm.
overtime season. Where I was working at, like mandatory overtime time season. I'm taking a child to school, a baby. I had to put my baby in daycare. Never had to put my baby in daycare before. Like it was just horrible. And he looked at me and he was like, "You didn't know he was with such and such?" Said her name, and I'm like, when he said her name, I'm like, I thought that was his cousin's girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, "Oh no, she with him now."
Oh, yeah.
Got pictures on Instagram, and I go on Instagram, and lo and behold, she kissing them all on the cheek. Yeah, and that's her hubby, and it was right there in my face, and that's what it was, and that's how I found out.
See how God will protect you, and He will protect you. He will keep a hedge over you. You wasn't supposed to see that until the right time. But go ahead.
And to the right time. Within those 3 weeks, when I say I felt like I was having a nervous breakdown, I was going crazy. I could not sleep because I was like, where did he go? Who does he love that hard to pull him away from me? Like that's all that was going through my mind.
Yes.
But what
Whew.
what should have been going through my mind was, God, where do I go from here?
That's it. Come on here. Yep. Yep.
That was
Come on.
all I should have been. I should have thought about. But again, I didn't know. I didn't.
Mm-mm.
And so at this point, it was time for me to address them. So I inboxed the both of them, and I only knew her as his cousin's girlfriend. That's all. She would drop him off and pick him up. I guess I don't got to explain that situation, but I don't know how that worked out. I do know, but I don't. That's neither here nor there for us.
That's right.
But she went from being his whatever to his girlfriend now, and I'm like, I know now, and now that it's out there, I'm gonna move on, and that's it. Y'all can have each other. I mean, I'm pretty sure I said some other stuff in there, but that's basically what they said, and I tagged them both. Like they both, it was an inbox with both of them in there. They got the same letter, and at that point, I'm like, you know what? It's on. I went in straight beast mode
Come
because
on.
what I've only known to do,
That's right.
I get hurt, is to go into beast mode.
Mm-hmm.
When
Ooh,
I, that's not the right way, and I'm still struggling with that. I
come on.
struggle with that. I'm starting to think that it's not because I used to think that it was just a result of the stuff that has happened to me. Like maybe I just go into beast mode because of the stuff I've been through. But I really think that I'm starting to think that it's a part of my character. to a certain extent. And that doesn't mean it can't change though. But anyway,
That's right. That's right. That's don't move on from that real quick, because let's just deal with that. That
okay,
is the truth.
okay,
Usually that's what God does. He's trying to prune. Like he prunes us. And so for you to say that is big, because people won't take that responsibility. That's an internal thing that you internalize for yourself to understand. Like, you know what? This ain't as a result of all the things I've been through. I have a character flaw that I need to work on, and I know that God will work on that for me, and make sure that that's out there too. Not only do you recognize it, but you know that's
that,
not your story. That's not the end of it. You still
right.
got okay. I just had to say that. Okay,
That was the word though. That was the word.
that's a word for somebody.
Um, so yeah, at this point I went in straight beast mode and I was like, I didn't want to do the whole like enemy thing again. I was past that. You know what I mean? At this point I just wanted to release the pain. So
Yes,
I've always been the type to like whenever I do get a breath of fresh air and get a little bit of singleness, which has never really been ever, but I like to have quite a few.
options.
That's just like
I got options.
yeah, I just went
Baby.
I played around for yeah. I played it for about a month, but still hurting. I was still hurting and I wasn't doing anything with anybody. It was all just conversation, just things to pass like talking to people to pass by time.
That's right.
Up falling for this one guy within a week. It was so sad. And yeah, and it was somebody I had no business, but and then I did end up sleeping with him just one time. And that time felt different from the first time that I stepped outside of him. The first time I stepped outside of him, I was I was guilty because of who I stepped outside with, because of everything that was going on. But this time, because I didn't really feel, I felt relief. Like real seriously, I felt like haha, like that's what I felt. But I didn't do it again because, well, for one, I ended up having to cut it off. But for two, I didn't do it again because I knew that it wasn't who I was.
That's right.
I knew that it wasn't who I was, and I was
That's
like,
right.
even though that felt good to get out, it's not me. So why continue? You know what I'm saying? So I cut it off. But in the midst of me doing all of that, I started playing. I was sitting on my couch one night, and I was like, you know what, God, I'm gonna move. I was like, I'm going to leave here. I'm going to leave Pittsburgh because I can't imagine him allowing me to move on in peace. Because he was trying to like, once I found out, he was trying to reach out. He would try to like, before I found out what was really going on, he wasn't bothering me. Like he had moved on with her. But once I found out, I saw little bits and pieces, and then it got messy because I think I tried to like play side chick for a little bit. And that made it even worse. And I was like, you know what? I know where to hit him when it hurt. I tried to go have sex with somebody else that didn't help. So now I'm going to move on him. So I moved for two things, for two reasons. Because I wanted to move on. Again, I'm a runner. And for two, I was just trying to hit him where it hurt. So I'm like, nothing else was working. So I'm like, I'm out of here. And I sat on a couch and I would never forget. I was like, where am I gonna move to? I'm not going back to Detroit. I don't like it there. So where could I move to? And I went and put up my phone, and the girl that I was in high school with that moved to North Carolina, she was the first person that popped up on my timeline. And I was like, I'm gonna move to North Carolina. Just like that. I was like, I'm gonna move to North Carolina. I sat there and I started doing research and I started reaching out to a couple people that I knew there that could help me get on my feet. And within a week, I had everything all mapped out how I was going to do it. I was like, I'm about to put my 2 weeks in. I called my mom and my sister. I was like, look, I'm out of here. You coming or you staying? Which one? And you know them. They was like, what you mean? We with you.
Here we come. Bye, Pittsburgh.
You said you going where? And because because of because of who I've always been a leader. Like I've always been the person to like not make the decisions, but I've always had that like alpha female type. They trusted me. You know what I'm saying? And even if I was a very dumb decision, like for all the wrong reasons.
They riding out. That's how you got them people. Listen.
They trusted me. And my mom, I know I'm not saying she didn't trust God, but I trusted God.
Yes.
And my mom did too, and so did my sister. But I'm saying like they knew that at the end of the day, we knew that everything would be all right. I know I'm talking.
Yeah.
Sorry. But I started planning out the trip, and In the meantime, I told him, you know what I'm saying, and he started trying to come back around. But at this point, the decision was made. I started putting everything in motion. I think I made the decision in May. I made the decision in June. We were moved by July 25th. I made the decision like the beginning of June, and by July 25th, we had moved out. I put my 2 weeks in on my job. I had been on my job 5 years.
Mm.
I put my 2 weeks in on my job, and my dad came down. My dad came from Detroit and packed us up, and we left. And the night before we left, we cried together, me and my ex-husband, because regardless of everything else, we still had a really strong bond. We still had a really that has been the glue, I think, between us for a long time. And I want, and that's important for me to speak on. When you are not supposed to be with a person, and they continue to hurt you, right? And you are trying to find any reason to hold on to them. Let the bond be the very last reason why you holding on, because it's actually the complete opposite. You're actually tearing the bond apart when you stay when you're not supposed to, because bitterness,
That's good. That's good.
eventually bitterness, somebody at some point, somebody has to be level headed, like, look, we gotta let this go. We gotta let this go. But anyway, we cried together that night, the night before I left and moved back to North Carolina. And but I still left. I didn't want to leave him, and I knew that I was leaving him there to be with her. Although he was telling me the opposite, but I'm like, I knew that that was going to happen, and I was willing to sacrifice that for my peace and my happiness.
Yes, Lord.
Goes to show how anxious I was to finally get some peace. That I ran as far as North Carolina, left a person that I envisioned spending the rest of my life with, to be with uh to be with somebody else. Like,
Hmm.
that's how desperate I was for happiness. But I couldn't have been that desperate, because eventually he ended up there. I will never regret the move to North Carolina, because a lot happened to me there. Oh my God. Spiritually, emotionally, physically,
Hmm.
mentally. I went through a whole lot there. But I will never regret the move to North Carolina. I just regret the reasons I went, for one, and I regret the decisions I made while I was there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And one of them was back. So we moved in July. He was there by October. Um, in between October, um, before I even moved, right before I got on the road, I'm sorry, I missed this part. Right before I got on the road to go to North Carolina, I had a phone conversation with the girl that he was dealing with.
Okay.
And she was calling because she noticed that he was trying to come back. He was, trying to come back in. But I mentioned to her in that conversation, I'm like, look, baby, I'm about to leave. I'm moving to North Carolina. You can have him. And she was like, oh, did he tell you that that's where I'm from? And I'm like, no. And she was like, yeah, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, here for school. And I'm like, by this time, plans was already set in stone. And I'm like, I don't care. I will, like, I don't care. I'm just ready to go at this point. I don't care.
Baby.
So, but I remember her mentioning that's where she was from, and her parents lived there, or whatever. And she was like, I had plans on going back, but I only stayed for him. So I wanted to know if he has plans on going with you. And I'm like, no, I'm leaving him. He can't come with me. But once I got there, he called, and he was hitting me with the sob stories, and I was just getting me. I was just missing him, and that was my other half. So I was just dumb. And that's the only thing that I can think of. I was I know. Oh, here's the thing. He called me, told me that he need. That's okay. So here's something. Here's another fun fact about me, and I just came up with this revelation on myself. Um, Actually, on my last Facebook live, I am attracted to people that need me, and the behaviors that I've my past behaviors with him shows proves that I'm attracted to people that need me. When you need me, it makes me feel like, oh, I got a project. I can work on you. I can help you. And that's where I become vulnerable. That's really what happened. So I won't call
And
my
that's right. I was going to say, but we have to understand that God, everybody ain't our assignment. There are some people assigned to us, but everybody ain't it. Because I'm the same way. It's like, oh, I got to fix somebody. You need fixing? I'm a coming. I'm a fix it. I'm a rock you. I'm a do. I would do that. But these days, no. I'm like, no, everybody ain't my assignment. Jesus, them your kids, get them.
because you will get in your journey taking on assignments that you have no business taking on.
That's right.
That's what happened.
That's
That's what.
right.
But he started, he was having some issues with like where he was living at the time because he had to go back home to his mom and where he was sleeping at and stuff. So I'm like, you can come here. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you can come here. And we planned for me to pick him up for in October for me and my son share a birthday, October 24th.
Mm-hmm.
Know what? I'm gonna come to Pittsburgh for our birthday and you could come back then with us. This was in September when I made this decision. He came to visit me for a week and went back home. And when he went back, before he left, we made that decision. That'll give us a little bit over a month. And that way I can monitor your behavior. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was talking to him every night. You know what I mean? Falling asleep on the phone with him. And then one day, now mind you, before I moved to North Carolina, I blocked her from everything, Facebook, everything, so that she didn't have any access to me. And I only blocked her because she didn't do anything to me. I blocked her because I was running. I was running from what I didn't want to face because I figured that he was going to continue somehow, some way, and I just didn't want to know. So,
Yeah.
and one day, I don't even know how. Okay, I don't even know how this happened. I was on I was on my block list, reviewing my block list because I block everybody. And I went to go unblock somebody else that had nothing. She wasn't even associated with this person. I unblocked them to message them. And when I messaged them, not even 2 minutes later, I get this long message from no, actually it wasn't a long message. I'm sorry. She said, call me. She said, call me. She just messaged me and she said, call me. And I remember the long message was from me whenever I inboxed them too. But she was just like, call me. So I called her and she was like, this is how the conversation went. She said, I just wanted to know if he has any plans on coming to move there with you. And I was like, we talked about it. It was, we talked about it, but nothing set in stone. I know what to keep a secret and what not to keep a secret. I was just trying to feel to see how she was moving. And she was like, oh, okay, well, did he tell you I was pregnant?
I went to sleep. Sorry, I went to sleep. Jesus. Jesus. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, she was, did he tell you I was pregnant? And I was like, no, he didn't. Now, mind you, the first time I found out about the first pregnancy, I wanted to puke right there on the cement.
Yes, yes.
This time, I don't even know what I felt. It was like I was numb. No, you know what? You know what? You know what? It was almost like I knew that day was coming. So I didn't feel anything because I knew that day was coming because I remember on the way to North Carolina and on the road when we were driving the truck, following the truck in my truck, I remember having a dream that he was pushing a little girl in a cart with her.
Oh, Jesus.
And I remember the dream on the road, and I remember thinking to myself, like, that's just my conscience because I'm leaving that behind. Like that's the devil trying to taunt me,
Yeah.
leaving it behind. And he just put you leaving, but I'm still going. It don't matter. But so when she said it, it was almost like I figured I knew it was coming. So I'm like, well, he can't come here if y'all haven't.
Move over, ma'am.
I
You in the crib.
Charlotte. I had went out in Charlotte like twice. And I'm like, look,
I'm out here living my best life at this point.
yeah, come here. but I talked to her like a big sister that day because I was numb, okay? Because I had been through so much emotionally with him already. And because of where I was, like I knew that I was at a road where I either make this decision and go this way or go make this decision and go that way. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of at a place where I'm okay, regardless of what happens, right? So I'm gonna talk to her like I would want somebody to talk to me. And I think I left this out. I did leave this out with the first baby that was born on me. he was not a part of that child's life completely until I was. So until I accept, that's why and I should have said it earlier. That's another reason why I felt forced to be in the baby's life because I felt like I had to in order for him to make him a dad. I didn't want to, you know what I mean? I didn't want him to slack as a father because he was just trying to play on whatever my move I was ready to make
Right, right.
his for whatever he did. So I lost my train of thought. But um where was I going with that?
But with
Oh,
this baby, the
oh,
new.
because I knew that he would. So I wanted to talk to her like I would want any woman to talk to me if I was in her shoes because she
Yeah.
loves him. Okay, she loved him a lot actually, and I felt that. I could tell that she loved him, and I could tell that he loved her. But she was trying to hold on because she saw that he was slipping away. Like she saw that I wasn't playing and I was a real woman. She ran. In her mind, she felt like she wants him to chase her, and I kind of sort of did, but I kind of sort of didn't. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, you know what? Let me be real with her. I said, I'm gonna be honest with you, honey. I don't think that you. I don't think that you should have a baby based off of what you think might keep him because I know him and it's not. It's actually gonna make him do the complete opposite. He felt like you are the second person. Now I know he might move like he don't love me, and he might be out here moving and doing things like he don't love me, but he worships the ground I walk on. He just does not know how to love me.
No, yep.
And anything or anybody that he feels like is going to come in between it, he's going to hate you.
Hmm.
And his relationship with your child is going to be affected.
That's true.
I'm just being real with
And that was real.
you. You just met him, but I know him.
Yeah.
And I said this to her. And I'm like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I would want a person to say to me if I was in your shoes.
That's good.
That's that. And she said, that her mom was against her having the baby because she felt that they were like I think she's like Mexican, I think. They're from another country and they have their beliefs. And he was, I don't know if it was what his culture, I don't know, but they was like against it. Or maybe or the mom was like, he don't want it. You know what I'm saying? Because she told me that he mentioned that he didn't want her to have a baby. So I was like, if he said that to you, listen, don't take that lightly. And that's just all I'm gonna say. That's just all I'm gonna say. So I hung up with her and she told me like I'm going to go and she said my mom wants me to get rid of it, so I'm going to get rid of the baby. She said, "Can you at least call him and let him know that I am so that he can talk to me?" That's how desperate she was to talk to him. She was like, "Call him and tell him that I'm going to go through with the abortion so that he can talk to me." And I did it. And when I called him, I said, "Look, she just called me, and again, I'm going to do." Once again, he looking for me for answers. I'm like, I don't know, but this is what. If she keeps the baby, you can't come here. So she said she's gonna get an abortion. You call her and you work that out with her. Y'all figure that out. But in the meantime, you let me know. And if she gets the abortion, you can come back with us when we come down for our birthday. If not, then that's what it's gonna be. And they worked it out, I guess, or whatever. And they came up with a date that she was gonna go down there. And I was lingering in there, talking to him every night, falling deeper and deeper back in love with what I thought was love, and waiting for the abortion day. And then the night before the abortion, I couldn't get in touch with him, so I reached out to her. And when I reached out to her, I was like, "Have you talked to him?" And she was, "Are y'all still talking?" And I'm like, "Yeah," you know what I mean. I'm like, "Well, I was just looking for him." And she was like, "No, he's not here." Next morning, he's on my phone and he's like looking for her. And I told him like I called her last night, and he was like, I was like, "Cause I couldn't find you." And I don't know where the miscommunication went about, but somehow he ended up not going to the abortion clinic with her, and got a text message from one of her friends that night saying that she went with her and I got her. The text message said, "We didn't need you. I got her." That's all it said. I took that as I got an abortion, and I just okay, you can come. Went down there and bought him back. We ended up getting put out the place that we was living at. All of us lived in the apartment. Me, my mom, my sister, her two kids. We lived in this house, and she had an issue with her Section 8. We ended up getting put out. We were homeless for like 2 days because we found a two-bedroom in Oh, we was down there struggling. We were down there struggling. Everything was all bad from the start. From the start. I mean, at first it seemed like we only got a little bit of peace like that first month. Honestly, it's like from the time I brought him down there. Honestly, I just I just feel like everything just started going bad. So everything we got put out. We had to stay in a hotel for like 2 days. Me and my sister were serving tables, trying to just make ends meet, trying to live. My sister found a place. It was a 2 bedroom. He and I were like, well, we're gonna look for our own place in the meantime. We ended up finding a place, and we moved into our first apartment together in North Carolina, our own, in December of 2000. We got down there in 2013, so this would have been 2000. No, this would have been in December of 2000 or January of 2013. About 2 or 3 weeks after we moved in. At the time, his son was there with us. Oh, I skipped that part. Mom had called and said that she goes through those periods where he stays with him. She didn't want him again, or whatever. I don't know how it would work out. You got to take him, and his son actually was down there struggling with us too. At our apartment, we got a little 2 bedroom apartment with our 3 kids, and one of them was the son he had on me. About 3 weeks after we got to that apartment, I get on Face or Instagram, and I am on. I think I was friends with one of his sisters. Yep. And I seen her like respond. The girl had said something on one of her posts, and she responded, and she was like, "Thank you, my lovely Prego," to the girl that's supposed to have
That
got
was
the.
supposed to get the abortion.
And that's how I thought. We are well within. We are well within. I think it was like January, February at the time. We are well within February. So at this point, there ain't no abortion. Sis is pregnant. So I went to start doing research, and I go on her page, and she didn't had a baby shower and all. And I'm like, he's sleeping on the couch. And I'm just, for, I want to say a half hour, I was on Facebook, going back from Facebook to Instagram, putting timelines together. I'm like, yo, she's pregnant with his baby. She's pregnant with his baby. And I woke him up, and he was like, he pretended like he didn't know. He pretended like he didn't know. And that ended up being a whole big mess. The families, like our families and everything, like that just got so messy. But I remember going in the that day. I found out that night. I remember breaking down again in the bathroom, going in the shower again, breaking down. But this time it wasn't a cry out to God like it was last time. Like, why God, why? This time it was a. I felt stupid. I felt like God was like, I told you so. I showed you. You still let him come. What else? Like, there's nothing else left at this point. And I remember telling my ex-husband that night, I was like, I'm not accepting another baby. I'm not. This one is living with us right now. And we are barely making it here. Like, I am not accepting another baby. I'm just not. And he he was he never I told him that he would have to go back to Pittsburgh, but I was kind of like living off his income at the time. So that was like really not a possibility at the time. And he was really redeeming himself, like as far as like drinking and staying in the house and stuff. He didn't drink for 9 months straight, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But she ended up having the baby a few months after that. And the night that she had the baby, one of his family members posted the baby. That's how I found out. I was getting like phone calls from my family members, and they were like, "Yeah, the baby was born," and that's how I found out. That's how he found out too, that the baby was born. And then I remember like I was like, I felt attacked. Like I felt like at this point, this is another situation where this is a tool that is being used. I'm looking at this baby as a tool that is being used to hurt me. So now, like, I'm looking at everybody as the enemy. Everybody but him. Everybody's the enemy but him. I'm like, they're out to get me. So at this point, again, I go in beast mode. And I'm like, and that's just who I am. Oh, they think they got me. So I was like, that night, I was like, you know what? I know how to make this all go away. I'm like, let's get married. Mind you, I think I remember I had the ring back in Pittsburgh years.
Yes.
We ended up calling off the wedding because he had to do 90 days. I meant to We ended up calling off the wedding, but then even before he did the 90 days, I found out that he was like talking to somebody. So I kind of really didn't really want to go through with the wedding anyway, but we never talked about it again once it was dropped. Like we just let
Right.
it with that situation and now moved. It was not talked about. So I was just like, let's get married, and he was like, all right, you know what I mean? Because he like, oh, okay.
So you ain't gonna put me out or nothing, right? I can stay as long as we right. Okay, let's do this. Okay.
Let's do it. So we immediately started planning a wedding immediately. Like I was on it. And I told him, I know like the first 2 weeks of planning the wedding, the I want to say the baby was born in May. We got married July 5th. That's how fast we moved. So I made that decision in May, and we got married July 5th. And when we got married, of the first like couple weeks of planning the wedding, um, I told him that his family couldn't come to the wedding. I was like, they can't come because again, I was looking at them as the enemy. Again, everybody but him. So I'm like, you know what? They can't come. This is a happy time for me. I just want people that love us and that supports us. But meanwhile, it wasn't even really that. It was just me being that.
Spiteful and hurt and yep.
And I will never forget, I was on the phone and I asked her permission to say her name. I talked to, I call her one of my spiritual sisters, a friend of mine named Mecca. She's like a family member. I remember talking to her and she was like telling me like, look, I know what you feeling. I know that you feel what you feeling is real. And I'm not taking away from the anger that you have. I'm not taking away from the pain that you have against them.
Yeah.
To you is hurt people, hurt people. Those was her exact words. She said, hurt people, hurt people. And you don't want to be that person. And that's a big moment in his life. And she was like, she talked me into it. She was like, you got to let that man have his family there. You got to. So, I went back and I went to him and I told him, like, you can invite him. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you can invite him. But I didn't say it like, I'm not going to say that I was like, it was, I said it in a way that made him believe I was really happy about him coming. I was like, you can invite him and I won't say anything to him. And, just being nasty. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
People that know me now will probably be like, yeah, right. Yep. I was nasty. I was
Yeah.
bitter. I was bitter. I was broken. And I was like, you know what I mean? They can come, but I'm not going to say anything to them. They can't stay here. Da, da, da. So as a man, I understand why he would be like, you know what? I have done the most to this girl. If I know that she's not 100% happy about something, why I would, you know what I mean? I put her in another predicament. And then
Right.
I'm not going to lie, I had even started to, the evil in me started to try and convince him that they were against us. And even if that was the case, that was not my place as a woman.
That's good, Shitaye.
I would never do that today. I would never do that today. But they
Let me just say something real quick. I get that piece because you were hurt and it was coming from a hurt place and they were celebrating something that was hurting you. And so they were just being family. They may have been mad at him for not being around even though it was a mistake to be made, but they were being there, standing in there in his place. But I understand that whole not wanting them to be bothered piece because I did it too. You ain't the only one. Right when the moment when you like, hold up. So it's us against all them.
Yes.
Like all them and us. So you pick and choose. I'm about to be the wife you pick. I hadn't been there, and you're right. It's not okay, but it's a human emotion, especially
Right.
when you're going through and
Right.
you feel like people aren't encouraging you or with you. You feel like they're against you. So that I totally understand that.
Yes. So he ended up not telling them about the wedding, and they found out the day we got married, and it was a mess. Like what was supposed to be like should have been the best day of my life was like so messy. It was so messy and it was so petty and it was coming from both ends. And even though I was silent online because like a lot of people was like they're bashing you and I never responded because I'm just not that type of person. I just don't get into that. And I was really trying to enjoy that day because even underneath all that pain, even underneath everything that I knew I knew I wasn't supposed to be marrying that man. I knew it. I made myself believe that everything was working out. Girl, my family came, all of my family came from Pittsburgh. One of my friends, Stash, she planned out everything. She made sure Everything was lining up. Like we were so broke, and we really still had like a nice little outdoor. Family came down. Everybody enjoyed themselves. So I used that as I tried to make myself believe that it was because everything was lined up. But see, this is important because where we might think God is setting everything up, it's really just us thinking with a cardinal mind, which is like not in the spiritual light. And it's really just us making ourselves believe that God is setting everything up.
And
And
we get in God's way because he already got the plan for us, and did, but we want it because we that microwave society where we want things like right now in a couple minutes. We don't want to wait that process. But God is like, no, I have something for you, and it could be that thing, but not right now. I got things to do. But we like, no, I'm not gonna wait on you, God, right now. I need this now. Plus, I'm trying to make them mad for what they did, and I know they love Him so much that if they're not part of this ceremony, that's gonna hurt. You knew that.
yep, yep, I knew that. I knew that. And so I married him, and the wedding was the wedding was beautiful, but the consequence behind the wedding or everything that the stuff that was happening behind the scenes wasn't. And I was just putting it in the back of my mind, like, you know what, whatever, I'm just gonna ignore it. But again, I got a good heart. And at the end of the day, we all ended up reconciling at some point, the families. And we wanted to plan, I wanted to do something to where they can be a part of it. And I was like, let's have a reception in Pittsburgh so that they can be a part of it. Because even underneath all the brokenness, underneath all the bitterness, and then I felt like the deed had been done. Like, aha, y'all still didn't come. And that's really, I'm being,
Yeah, come on.
I was like, y'all still didn't come. That's okay. Now we could just celebrate the reception. You know what I'm saying? So, but the thing was, from this day we said I do, from the time of the reception, I mean, from the time we got married to the reception, this is how you know God is real. He had stayed out. He had got bring right back to drinking, and he had stayed out away from home. I think like twice. One time I remember waking up to go take my daughter on the school bus, and I had been up back and forth, pacing back and forth from the window to the bed all night long, waiting for him to come in. And I opened up the door, and he was like asleep on the porch, and passed out, knocked out on the porch. And I had been looking all night, so he had to just get there like 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning. I had put her on the bus at like 8. But that just show proves like I wasn't supposed to be there. That was immediately. That was between the wedding. We got married July 5th, and the reception was August 25th. So that happened in between that time. It had already started going bad. We came here for the wedding. I mean, for the reception, had a good time. Loved on each other after all the bitterness. You know what I mean? We both families loved on each other. We had a great time. We did. As soon as I got back home, I found out I was pregnant. Right? I found out I was pregnant, but I was so sick when I found out because for one, we only had his income coming in, and I remember I think at one point he had 2 jobs, but he ended up losing one, so we was down to one income. Um, I wasn't working at the time, and we had my son was 2, and my oldest daughter was I think like 8 at the time, and then my stepson had already went back. But so I think at this point he had already gone back to Pittsburgh. But I was still like, we're barely making it. We can't afford a baby. And then on top of that, I knew I wasn't supposed to be with him.
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
already mind started setting up, like thinking like I'm not gonna be with him. I don't want to be trapped again. This is a third child. I was so sick. Like when I say sick, I don't mean like physically sick. I was, but I mean like I was sick. Like I cannot believe this is happening. And I went to him and I was like, look, we are no strangers to abortion, and I don't think it's smart for us to have this baby. My stomach is growling. I was like, I don't think it's smart for us to have this baby. He was like, no. He was like, I'm not paying. We are married. You're not getting an abortion. Like, that's just not happening. I'm not giving you money for the abortion. He was the only person that had money, like had income coming in
Mm-hmm.
for a student loan at the time. And I was trying to calculate. I'm like, this student loan was supposed to hit any day now. And I'm like, as soon as that student loan hit, I'm going to the clinic without him. And that's just that because the behavior kept going. We had 2 neighbors we lived in a building with about, I think it was 6 units. 4 out of those 6 units, all the apartments had alcoholics in it, right? Every, almost every apartment in a unit. He parties all night long. There was a mom and a daughter that I actually grew to know and love and grew a relationship with that lived above us. And he would stay up there all the time. And the mom is she dates women, so she's more like a guy.
Yeah.
And so like he was attracted, like you, I mean not attracted, but they clicked because she
Cool.
is
Mm-hmm.
older, way older than us. I think she was like in her 40s at the time. And then she had a younger daughter. And that's just where he hung out all the time. And he would drink there. And I got close to them too, you know what I'm saying? But and sometimes I would go out there and drink with them too, because that was the only way I could bond with my husband was to.
Yeah.
So but when I got pregnant, I fell back from everybody. But and it's, at the time I was like, he's out there, he's up there more than he is home. If I have a baby, who's gonna help me with this baby? I have to get an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember talking to my spiritual sister again, and I was like telling her, and she was like, "Listen, I'm not telling you what to do. This is what I'm going to tell you to do, though. You need direction." She said, "I want you to go into a season of consecration." At the time, I didn't know what it was. I went and I went and looked up, researched what it was, and she was like, lock yourself outside, out of the world, away from the world for a week
Mm-hmm.
from God." She said, "I don't care what you got to do it." Now, within that, I felt like deep depression, but I needed to get there in order to literally talk to God, because that's how
Yes.
I got it. I do. I struggle with that still. Like sometimes I wait until I get too far deep into my feelings, and I'm like, "All right, God, now I'm ready to hear." You know what I mean? So, in that time, I remember telling. I know one of the things. That's, yep, fast and pray. And I did that. I fasted and I prayed. I shut off all my social media. And in that time, I had applied for a job. Within that 7 days, got the call back to go to the job. Remember, that was one of my reasons for not wanting to keep my baby, was because we didn't have enough income coming in. So I went to the job interview, right on my 7th day of coming out of the consecration, the 8th. We're on the 8th day at this point.
Okay.
Okay. I go to the job interview, and I'm talking to the job interview was set up like it was weird because it was a call center. It was like a line of like a table of like 8 people, but there was like little cardboard box things to separate us. So you sit 101 with this person on the other side of the cardboard box, whatever they had to separate us was another.
Okay.
I sat in that interview, right? And we went through the whole interview. She got my skills and all the formal stuff. I started opening up to this girl, telling her all of my business. It just started. I was like, "I'm pregnant," crying. Okay, I'm like, "I'm pregnant, and I don't know if y'all gonna hire me." And I'm like, I usually don't do this, but I don't know what to do. And
Mhm.
and she was like, "Okay, well," I told her about the conversation I had with my spiritual sister, and
Yes.
I mean, I'm like, if I get this job, then that's my sign that I'm gonna keep this baby. This is her exact. She listened to my whole story about the journey from Pittsburgh to North Carolina, all the stuff that she got a little rundown of everything y'all just got. She said, "I'm going to give you this scripture. This is," she said, "listening to you, I'm gonna tell you two things." She said, "For one, you got the job. That's for you got the job." And she said, "And for two," she said, "the whole time I was listening to you, God gave me this scripture." And she said, "He told me to tell you to take this scripture with you everywhere you go for the rest of your life." She said, "Just listening to your story, all I can hear is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, plans to keep you." I think it says plans to keep you and not to harm you. And from that day forward, that has always been my go-to scripture. When I'm feeling anything, when I'm feeling discouraged, when I'm feeling like I'm ready to give up, that has always been my go-to scripture. Jeremiah, since that day, Jeremiah 29:11. Um, so at that point, I ended up I kept my baby. I had my baby, named her Destiny. That is my baby. That is my heart. I can't believe that I was gonna ever get rid of my child. That is
Yeah.
Destiny. We named her Destiny, and he actually came up with the name. And I remember when she was born, and when I held her in my arms, all I could think about was the fact that I almost didn't get that chance. And I'm like, "Your name is perfect because you're going to be what gets me to where I need to be, my
Mm-hmm.
destiny."
Mm-hmm.
And so it fit her perfect. Ever since then, I've been on I've been on the path to success. Like I've
Yeah.
been on a straight like runway. I gotta get there. When I had her is when I started to realize that I had to get out. I had to get out. She wasn't even a year yet. I had got my own apartment away from him. We had just made a year anniversary. We got a year and a half married. We never celebrated our year anniversary. He was out drinking with the neighbors the night that we were supposed to be celebrating. By the end of that year, I got my own apartment there. It was a brand new apartment. Listen, I went up now. I ended up having. Um, I didn't have. I had sitter issues. I having some trust issues upstairs. I was suspecting some stuff, and I was getting called crazy again. But and to this day, he denies it. I almost going to jail behind it because I put my hands on her. And yeah, that was another story. But so she was my babysitter, and when that happened, I didn't have a babysitter, so I ended up having to leave my job. So when I had to end up having to put my hands on her, and the cop told me like you could have went to jail that night. I knew that I had to get away from him. So I was just like um I started. Am I cutting out?
You was, but it's better now.
I started really praying and like fasting, and I was like, God, you got to get me out of here. And I ended up applying for this apartment that was a tax credited apartment. It wasn't subsidized; it was tax credited. Didn't have no job. All I had was my book. I ended up releasing my book in between that time, and they used me as a as income and got me in this apartment, brand new, spank 3 bedroom apartment. My rent was $300 a month. My rent was $300 a month. Yes. Moved into the apartment, and he and I remained separated. He stayed there where he was. I stayed where I was. We stayed separated for quite some time, about 9 months. My sister moved to. My sister was had in that time. Her and my mom, after we got married, her and my mom moved back to Pittsburgh. She ended up coming back after she went through some things. She ended up coming back to North Carolina. When she came back, she stayed in his apartment, and I allowed him to come and stay in my apartment. That was just a way, because we were still messing when we were separated, of course. And I found that was just another excuse to get him back, to be honest. And because he wasn't really doing anything to make me believe that he had changed while we were separated, but still, I'm still trying to hold on. And I let him come stay in the apartment, and he came, and my sister ended up staying in his apartment for a while, and then she got her own. And once his apartment was gone, he stuck there in mine. But he ended up coming back to Pittsburgh for a minute in that time. He up and like decided his mom just came and got him. And I didn't know until she was there to get him that he was going back to Pittsburgh. And he told me that he did mention that he wanted to do some work there, but I didn't trust him. And that wasn't a decision that we made. And we had a big falling out about that.
Mm-hmm.
While he was gone, um, I got an opportunity to experience, like really experience a taste of what it's like to not have him around and for me to know and love myself just a little bit, just a little bit. But it was just enough to let me know that you want this one day. He was only gone for like, I don't even think it was a whole 3 months. He was gone for like maybe 2 months. But in that time, I was like, this is what life is like without him. You know what I mean? I went on one date. I'm not gonna lie. We were still married. I went on one date with a white guy that I met at. I was bartending at the time, but I did. We that was it. We went on one date, and that was it. When he came back, things got so much worse, like way worse. I started suspecting that he was messing with the um there was 2 girls next door. I heard some stuff. He was staying out again all types of hours of the night. I was at this point I around into like at this point I felt tortured because he would tell me that he loved me so much and he would change. He wanted to change. He wanted to do different. But I was just getting the complete opposite of what he was saying. But I was holding on to what he was saying. I'm like, it's in you. I know it's in you. So I'm just going to stick around. But at the same token, I was like plotting to leave. And this went on for like another like year or two. You know what I mean? And then it got to the point where it was just so bad. Like I ended up almost about to fight again. Like, well, not about to fight. There was another incident where he was like in the house with another girl that was younger and well, not like like she was like in her younger 20s or early 20s or something like that. And it was a friend of ours, niece, and it was like a conflict of interest. The whole family. I ended up having the girl. The whole family was at my door, like 8 of them, and they all. I don't want to be, but yeah, yeah. It got, and at that point, I'm like, this is too much. This is too much. I need to start because and nobody knew. I wasn't calling. I think my mom and my sister, of course, they were not living there at the time. My sister had moved back. I meant to add that. My sister, they had moved back to Pittsburgh for the second time. And now I'm just there by myself and I know they're not coming back. So I'm like, at this point, I'm like, you know what? It's so bad that I need to breathe. I gotta talk to somebody. So I remember calling in and crying to my dad. I needed somebody else outside of my mom and my sister because I felt like they were tired of hearing it. You know what I mean? At this point, it's like repetitive. It keeps happening and you keep taking it back. So now I don't even want to say anything to y'all. I just held it in. And then one day I remember telling my dad, and he was like, I will come get you right now. Because a husband should be a provider and a protector, and he's not protecting you. If he's doing things that are resulting in people, and don't get me wrong, he was on that porch with me when they were at my door. Like, you know him.
Yes,
Not
yes,
gonna
I do.
like he wasn't, but that's not making him a protector because if he was a protector, it wouldn't have happened in the first.
That's true.
I wouldn't have been put in that predicament. So now
That's true.
I'm back to being humiliated. You know what I'm saying? And then not only am I being humiliated, um, and am I being disrespected? The emotional abuse is causing me to verbally abuse him. I should have always I've always verbally abused him actually, but it got way worse when this was happening. It was like again that hurt people. You get what I'm saying? So we it got really bad, and at that point I was like, you know what, God, I'm about to just start secretly making moves to leave. And Pittsburgh, uh, coming back to Pittsburgh was definitely an option because that was the only way I would be able to move on without his income. You know what I'm saying? I'll have the support of my family. And I was like, you know what, God, I'm going to leave January 2000. At the time, it was January 2018. I was like, I'm no 2000. I was like, I'm gonna leave January 2019. This was July when I made the decision. I'm like, I'm gonna leave in January 2019. I'm out of here when I get my taxes. August 2018, we started getting a leak in our wall, inside the walls in the apartment that was blowing the breaker box. Um, Found out that there was some damage done during constructions because they were brand new apartments. They had to move us in a hotel for 2 weeks. We were stuffed in a hotel for 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, they told us that there was nothing they can do. The repairs would take 90 days, and that we were being displaced. We had to leave for 90 days, and that wasn't an option for us because we had no family there. Granted, while we were staying in the hotel, waiting to know our fate, whether or not we would end up homeless or what, there was a couple nights he didn't come home. So where I'm like, should I stay? Should I go? Should I stay? Because he's like wanting to stay there. He had started going to school to cut hair. You know what I mean? He was all into that. He wanted to stay, and not only did he want to stay for that, but that was like he had become comfortable with his lifestyle there. And where he was comfortable, we were drowning. Like our marriage was drowning, but he was happy he was happy because he was content with what was going on. Because I was content. Because I know I wasn't content. I wasn't content. I was accepting accepting it. I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh,
I had my mic down. Yeah, accepting. Yep.
I was accepting it. So I was like, you know what? I gotta when that happened, when he didn't come home that 1 or 2 nights or whatever that was when we were in the hotel, I was like, I'm out of here. And we packed up everything and I was like, look, I'm going back to Pittsburgh. And I warned him before we got back to Pittsburgh. I was like, look, you can't come with me wherever I go when I get there. We got to go our separate ways. I was like, I'm going to my cousin's house for a couple weeks until my sister gets her place, and then when my sister gets her place, I'm going to live with her until I get on my feet, and you have to go with your mom. And that happened, and we ended up coming back in November 2018. I got a job. I got a job at Allegheny General with Allegheny Health Network that next month. Really good job, off rip, good paying job.
Uh huh.
My sister, we stayed with my cousin for a couple weeks, and my sister ended up getting her place, and me and my kids moved in with my sister. He was staying with his mom. I got my job, I got all my stuff. While the first like few months of me working at Allegheny Health Network, we did like mess around a little bit, but I was starting to hear that he was like after hours all the time. There would be nights I wouldn't talk to him, and you know what I mean. And the drinking just didn't slow down; it got way worse. And I was like, you know what I mean. I was able to find peace within myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, while I was in North Carolina and I was drowning in depression, there were some days where I felt like death had to be better than what
Yeah.
I keep making dumb decisions. You know what I'm saying? So when while that was going on though, while I was being broken, I was also building myself.
Come on.
So I would fight like death has to be better than this, but you can make your current situation better by making the right choices. Yeah, you made wrong choices, but you still have time to make right choices. So that's why I say that part of my story was when I started to become, because then I started to think like, okay, this happened for this reason. I'm going through this so that I can be this person. I really built my strength in North Carolina, in the one place that I was really broken down the most. So I used that to build my strength. And then when I got back to Pittsburgh and we were separated for that little bit of time while he was still drowning deeper in his addiction, that's when I started to love myself. So I built my strength in North Carolina. And then when I got back to Pittsburgh and we had that little bit of separation, that's when I started to fall in love with myself. And I started to enjoy myself. Like literally, like this sense of like peace just came over me one day. I just woke up and it was just like happiness.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up having to come back and move with us for a little while after that because he had a falling out with a family member and he had to come stay with us. And he stayed with us until I got my place that I'm living in now. And when I got my place, in the meantime, before I don't want to, I'm wrapping it up, but I didn't want to skip right to that. In the midst of him coming back to stay with my sister, we were still like dibbling dabbling here and there, but I knew that I didn't want to be with him, and I knew that I was no longer in love with him, and his behaviors did not stop. Like he was still the drinking and everything was still going on. The coming in at whatever time. It got to a point where I just stopped caring, and at this point, I'm like, we are not in a relationship because there's no feelings there, and I was very vocal about that. And then I filed for divorce in 2019, April of 2019, because I wanted him to understand that. Like I want out of this. And then right before I filed for a divorce, I went and did, training. I was like, I gotta do something to boss up. Working a 9 to 5 is not going to get me where I need to be. I went through all that pain. I gotta turn this pain into passion, and I gotta turn this passion into profit. So I dived deep within my soul, and I just started hustling my butt off. I went and got training for the body contouring. Started practicing that. In the meantime, he's still living there. We still living together in my sister's house. We sleeping in one room, us, the kids. Like we got this, we all piled up in this house again, struggling. And but while I was struggling, I was also building, and making sure that I was building a foundation to escape. And then I continue with my business. My business started growing. I started doing selling the waist trainers and did all that. I really bossed up. That's my remedy for anything. When you are broken, if you want to come up out of that, boss up. And bossing up don't just mean like hustling. Boss up meaning build your own strength. Build your own strength.
Yes.
Learn how to love yourself. That's the biggest flex right there. When you start loving yourself,
Self-love, baby.
you love you.
Nothing you can say about me when I love me.
Yeah, I love me. But I'm not accepting nothing less from nobody else. But
Come
anyway,
on.
I ended up in my own place. I was I didn't I got a little discouraged, in between filing for the divorce and finding my place because I was like on fire as far as like bossing up with the business and all that was concerned, and I knew my plans was coming together and everything was working. I'm like, I just got to get out of this space with this spirit. That's what I'm gonna call it, a spirit, because alcoholism is not only an addiction, it's a spirit. So not only do you need to physically detox and go get help and go get rehab from alcoholism or any addiction, you also need to spiritually cleanse. If you don't do both, it won't. You'll ruin anybody you touch. Even though I had detached myself from him as far as my
Hold on,
sister.
Shitaye. Hold on. Hold on. I want them to get this. It's some feedback.
Am I sounding scratchy? Because you sound scratchy.
Yeah, you did sound scratchy. Everybody, do we sound scratchy to everybody? Y'all let us know what we sound like. I think. Say something, Shitaye.
There we go. You good.
Okay.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
hold
There
this
we go.
microphone on this time.
Okay. All right. You was on the roll. Go.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so at that point, I had I moved out of my sister's house and I ended up finding a place. God was just moving. I ended up moving. So I went from living in the back of my sister's house in this small little bedroom, us piled on top of each other, Now my I got a 5 bedroom too bad. Like God came through for me, okay?
Come
And
on,
then I
Jesus, spread it
also
over this way.
listen, I got a 5 bedroom too bad. And from the time that I moved into I remember, I will never forget the day I signed my lease and I got my key. I felt so free. I felt like I could fly away. That was, now that right there is really when the happiness took over. Like at that point, nobody could ruin. There's nothing that can happen to me, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. And I hate to say it because it's scary to say it, but like there's really nothing that can happen to me that will ever pull me back to that dark person that I was.
Come
This
on.
brightness right here will never go away because I worked too hard to get it. You know what I mean? And I
Yes.
suffered through too much to get it. But from that day that I signed that lease and I got my own place and I got out of that space with that spirit, I've been so free and so happy. And then things just started coming together. A month later, I opened up this spa. A month later, I opened up this spa, and then now we've come into we signed our divorce papers in December, and everything was final as of last month. So we are now, we're divorced, but it's still a struggle. The bond is losing the bond and setting boundaries with with the bond still being there. It's kind of hard for me to not for me to move on because I'm moving on in life. Like I'm doing me. But it's hard for me to walk away completely, if I should
Okay.
say that. Like
Yes.
not and when I say walk away completely, I mean like just I feel like because the bond is there, I feel like he's still my responsibility, but I know he's not. You get what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes, I do.
So and then even with us separating, I was still raising his son up until yesterday. He left me. But his son was living with me. The son that he had on me was living with me um for a while, and his mom just came and got him yesterday. He's back living with her now. But I was even doing that for him until he got on his feet. I'm like, I'll keep him here. And now that I feel like his son is gone, I feel like that was the last string, and now I'm completely free. I'm completely unattached, and now this joy is really unstoppable.
Come on here, lady. Shitaye, Shitaye. I mean, I know a lot of what you discussed is I feel like I was, in the mirror kind of looking at some things that I've dealt with. Your transparency for what you went through is phenomenal. I know we told people before, but this was your first time actually coming out with your testimony, and you
Hmm.
wanted to, you didn't know, and you did more than an exceptional job. I'm telling you that
Thank
I know
you.
that it has set some people free, because I know that I'm one of them. I mean, just hearing you, and I told everybody I would share my story at some point, and I'm going to, but it helped me to understand, like, I'm not the first or the last. And I remember
Right,
going through, and you just not, when you're in it, you don't know a way to get out. You want to get out. Some people just want, but you just don't know where to start. And it
right,
does feel like you're by yourself in that, because people, you can't explain it to people, or you get people who give you their own opinions of what you
right,
should do and what you
right.
shouldn't do. You said a lot of significant things. One thing that kept flashing in my face was that God's plan is different than ours. So we even in those moments where we know we shouldn't make a decision, because those of us who accepted and received Christ and know, that Holy Spirit will convict you in a minute. They'll tell you, like, you ain't supposed to be doing that, and we do it
Mhm.
anyway. But
Yep.
but for those who don't understand or haven't experienced it yet, or who is learning, sometimes you will have a plan for your life, and
Hmm.
that's your plan. But if you know you didn't pray for that plan, and even sometimes when you do pray, God will shift things. So it's not, you can't always be married to a thing,
Right,
because I mean, a person, yes, because that's biblical, right? But
right.
to a thing, like, we can't be conformed to this world, but it's heart work. So if everything is coming from the heart, I believe, God, grow things from that. But He's God, and so
Hmm.
when He want to shift something,
Hmm.
He will shift it. And
Hmm.
And it'd be like Jonah, we running away and then get swallowed by the whale because we
Right.
didn't went the other direction than
Right.
where God is trying to take us, right?
Right. Right.
So you said that made me think of God's plan versus our plan. And I've been saying lately, since my brokenness, I've always termed the use what broke you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the key. Like, it doesn't define who you will be for the rest of your life. It's just another chapter in your story that you could flip the page and begin again. You can
Right.
always begin
Right.
again. So
Right.
if we say, okay, God, this is what my heart desires. He already knows what we desire, right? But if we don't put him as the foundation and include him in the beginning, in the middle, and the end, it'll shake some things up, and that lets the enemy be able to come in through some way, some crack, some window, some hole, to be able to test that. And we have to understand that everything in life that we deal with and go through is going to have a test to it. You're
Right.
going to be at the mountain, but there's a valley somewhere, and there's a
Right.
mountain and it's a valley. So, and I think I learned that from my pastor preaching that one day, but it stuck with me because, and it makes you able to deal in your going through because
Mm-hmm.
like this ain't forever. Like in this,
Listen. Yes, I was just about to say that. One thing my brokenness did help me with was building my faith. My
yes,
mom says it all the time. She's like, "You are courageous." I got crazy faith about the things that, and it's crazy. It's funny because like I will not have faith about stuff that's like about the dumbest stuff. Like, come on, now you God done came through for you. You done been
come on,
homeless. God done came through for you. You gonna be scared for this little thing. You know He gonna work it out. But
come
again,
on.
it always goes back to that scripture that she said God gave her to give to me. That Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you.
Prosper you and to give you hope and not to harm you.
So regardless of what, that's my plans for you. And if you make the decision to take this path, you can either take this path or we can take this path. But at the end of the road, my plans will still be my plans.
That's it. So I have this thing on the screen that I need for you to respond for me. Please encourage the person who is watching or listening to this conversation. What can you advise or say to that person who may be going through a similar experience?
Um, if they're talking about the baby experience, um,
All of it.
all
All
of
of
it,
everything you went through. What is something? How can I know Jeremiah 29:11? Most people should. That's a scripture that is really
yeah.
good to put on mirrors and stuff. But what would you say to the woman who fell in love, who thought that, that person was going to be the one, where life happened, situations came up, they want to fight, they're fighting, and it may be the right or wrong way? Just what would you encourage another woman who may be walking through what you walked through?
Um, just again, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier to make sure that you address the emotion and don't bottle the emotion up. Like, address it, face it. Don't run from it, because the more you run, the worse it gets. And prayer is key. Even if you're praying for your emotional stability, like even if you're just praying for that, don't pray for an outcome. Don't pray for direction. Like, wait to pray for that. Heal first.
Come on.
So pray for healing. Heal and then pray for direction. So that would be my suggestion, just to make sure that you are going through the necessary emotions and not just jumping the gun and just trying to go straight to the healing and just trying to be a boss. Like, oh, you know what? And that's when it comes back. That's when that tit for tat start happening. You know what I mean? Just like, don't jump the gun with the healing process. Actually go through. Don't jump the gun and go directly to the healing process. Actually go through what you came to. Go through
Shitaye,
it.
that is it. I think, first of all, being human, you have to understand that you're human and you're going to feel, but feel and heal. That was so good. The healing piece, heal first, because my grandma used to always tell me, you're no good to nobody if you're not first good to yourself. How you going to help somebody else if you're not well? You understand what I'm saying?
That's what did I say earlier? Listen, a friend of mine named Kia, we were just talking on the phone. And you know what she said? We always hear how hurt people hurt people. She said, but we never hear how heal people heal people.
Come on here.
And so that's my new journey. So now that I've gone through this, because God didn't say He only gave us one journey. Now that's my new journey. Now my new path is to use my brokenness and to use what I've used my healing to heal other people.
I like it.
I like that. I love that. I was like, I'm using that, girl.
We should hashtag that, I think, Shitaye. I think we'll go ahead and hashtag heal people, because that's
heal people.
And let me tell you how your girl, I didn't got ordained. That might be a word for, I might have to build on a sermon on that one. I might have to borrow that.
That was the one. Her name's Shitaye Corbin, and she does motivational speaking and stuff.
I might get her.
I said, kid, that was the one right there. Heal people.
Connects her with us so we can get her on here to encourage some people, because we need that. That's what's needed in the world today with everything that's going on. I want to say this last thing before we go. With respect to this conversation. So this is Shitaye's journey. And I know that she's not the only person that has journeyed through these things. I have said that I myself, have journeyed through some of the things that she said, and that's our journey. These are just tools. We're sharing where we've been, what happened to us, and where we've been. But the key is process. See, we always want to skip the process. Even when Shitaye said heal first, there's a process for that. You cannot rush process that. And I used to call them the P words. Process, I didn't like very much at all. I didn't like the word impatience. Those two words wasn't my friends until I started really walking with God closely and getting a personal relationship with Him. And then I understood, like, no, there's a process to everything.
Yeah.
It is a process. So with that healing, you will feel better. There's moments you'll feel up and you'll feel down. But when you feel up, that's not the end of it all. You really have to deal with it. And the other thing is, next month is May, and that's mental health month. So I'm going to keep the Broken Crayons still colored, but it's going to be the mental health edition. And I think it's key because you said something about talking about it. And I want to help the people of color get past the stigma of seeing a therapist, because sometimes it ain't just God that you sit and wait on. They said faith without works is dead. So sometimes you got to work your way to a therapist and let somebody on the outside who don't have nothing to do with nothing help you to heal, help you to figure out some things, because we'll find a lot of times that it's a us thing. It's like a foundation. There's something inside of us that we need to deal with. And yes, people hurt us and do things to us, but we have to be able to heal internally. Those things won't affect us as much as it does. So I want to encourage people, if you can, have a resource. And I'm trying to get some therapists to come in and be guests on the Pretty Tough Room, because people need to understand it's okay to go and talk to somebody.
Important. And it's important, even still after the healing. I still feel like I need to sit. So now that the healing is done and it's time to move on, I feel like talking to a therapist will benefit me to help me understand this new journey. You get what I'm saying? So it helps me to understand myself and why I move the way I move and why I make the decisions I make and why I choose the people that I choose. You know what I mean? I feel like it's important for me to sit and talk to a therapist even now after the healing. It's just important. I think it's important. And just like you said, we people of color, we have this stigma where we feel like we don't need them. All we need is God. God is everything. But God also equipped people with the tools.
Come on here. That's their gift. That's their gift. They got the gift to help us out. That's why that couch is right there. I'm going to go find somebody's couch to lay on. I ain't got a problem with it.
I got no problem with it.
Come on here. So thank you so much. Hey guys, I really appreciate you guys coming back and doing this part two. Yeah, I'm glad. And this ain't the last you're going to see of Shitaye. I'm going to try to, I've been praying that God help her come through, because I need a little help on the Pretty Tough Room with all this other stuff I got going on. If you guys, again, if you are suffering from, or you know somebody who is dealing with mental health issues and you would like to be a guest on the Pretty Tough Room podcast, you can shoot us an email at the Pretty Tough Room at gmail.com. You can go through the Facebook and YouTube page, send us a message. I do have a person who will reach out and connect you with me so that we can figure out how to do that. I think it's going to be integral, important next month for us to get people to come and just have conversations about mental health as a whole, because you
Mm-hmm.
talked about self-care, and that's important, I believe, for people's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I want to also let you guys know that Shitaye does have a line. She's wearing one of her pieces right now that is
I am.
real cute.
Thank
It's
you, girl.
it's Body by Shy. So if you
Yes.
guys are interested, you can go to this link. They can type this in, Shitaye, and get to your stuff.
Yep. But see, this isn't on there yet because this is being released this summer. This is the part of the fitness wear line. Right now, I have shapewear like waist trainers, thigh racers, all that good stuff. The
Mhm.
stuff you need to get fit to get right.
Listen, and y'all know, so she got this gear, and then my daughter Dayana Kendrick is doing her little workout thing on the regular, so you could wear her gear, get
Oh,
with Dayana, work out, and figure things out.
oh
Because
yeah, let's do
I'm
it.
about
Let's
to
do
be
it.
snatched this summer, child, because I'm plugged in. And then Shitaye also talked about her beauty spa, body and beauty spa. It's called Pittsburgh's Body and Beauty Spa. It's located in Bellevue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on Belf Street. So you guys go check her out. I've been seeing her post about Mother's Day special. So my
Oh
Pittsburgh
yes,
family and friends
yeah. That
get.
Mother's Day package you come in. Y'all see the massage therapist?
I saw a
He's
man over
fine.
there getting
He's
extra.
fine.
Listen,
And his hands is
so
magical.
okay, so there's eye candy and massages over at Pittsburgh's Body and Beauty Spa. I might have to catch me a flight, go home for a little bit, and figure out what's going on up here and be part of. But you guys go and show her some support. Also, don't forget she has a book that's called "Sleeping with That Enemy," and the other one is what, Shitaye?
The other one is losing Grandma Louise, and then I have a third one called Secrets and Lies. And that's my era. I'm done with my era of writing fictional
So she
stories.
say, we didn't already told you what God said. Thus saith the Lord might have. You ain't about to tell God
Yeah,
what he
because
about to do.
everybody that read part one, they're gonna be like, no, she better get part two out of her before she decides to retire.
I know, right? Again, guys, thank you guys so much for watching and paying attention. If you missed part one, go back and watch it and then watch this again so you can get them
Yes.
pieces. There is nuggets in here for people who may be dealing with and going through. Don't forget, guys, if God places it on your heart to sow into the ministry, there's our Cash App, $TPTR. Help us keep the lights on and the bills paid so we can keep bringing people in. I already know that God breathed on this, so I ain't gonna want to need for nothing
You
for
know
this
what? I want
platform.
to add something. And I don't even know why I'm doing this because it's not even. If anybody is interested in booking me to speak and talk on this subject or anything that you feel like you might want to hear from me about, like anything, they can email me, reach out to me. I would love to do this. Like I would love to continue doing something like this, like a podcast, anything like a radio show. I like this. I
This
like
is
this.
her correct spelling of her name, guys. If you
Yep.
guys are interested, she's on Facebook. You can search her under this name right here, Shitaye Morrison. If you guys are interested in having conversations, I know for the Pretty Tough Room, I'm going to relaunch my Pretty Tough Sister group since COVID gave me some pretty good ideas where we'll have like Zoom meetings, just private type of stuff where we can have conversations that's not live for everybody, but
Yeah.
and then when God gonna send a mail through here to get my male viewers up because
Yeah.
I'm only 9% there, but I'm trusting God for everything. Listen, guys, the slogan for the Pretty Tough Room is tough times never last, but tough people do. I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys. Thank y'all and have an amazing evening. Shitaye, you stay on.
Thank y'all. Okay.